It was just a split second, but it felt like a full long minute where I stared into the polar bear's eyes and then just pushed off on its hind legs and then took off.
That's Sunniva Sorby, polar explorer, co-founder of the Hearts in the Ice Project and RCGS Fellow. She's our guest on this episode of Explore, a Canadian Geographic podcast. Welcome to all you explorers out there, armchair and in motion. I'm your host, David McGuffin. Before we get to our guest, a reminder that a subscription to one of the world's great nature and geography magazines is just a click away. For $28.50 a year, Canadian Geographic magazine brings you issue after issue of award-winning writing and photography about Canada, its people, landscape, wildlife, environment, and more. So please subscribe by visiting cangeo.ca/subscribe. And now, on to Sunniva Sorby. Throughout the pandemic, it's safe to say that most of us spent some time self-isolating, but not quite the way our guest today did. Explorer Sunniva Sorby spent 2 long winters in an uninsulated trapper's hut on the Arctic island of Svalbard, halfway to the North Pole from northern Norway. Along with her Norwegian colleague, Hilde Falun Strom, they set a record with their all-women project called Hearts in the Ice, doing scientific research for NASA, the Norwegian Polar Institute, amongst others, bringing attention to the massive impact climate change is having on our polar regions. And now they're about to do another Hearts in the Ice project, this time in the Canadian Arctic. Born in Norway and raised in Canada, Sunniva has spent decades carrying out expeditions in the Arctic and especially the Antarctic. She was part of the first ever all-women team to journey to the South Pole. So Sunniva Sorby, welcome to the Explore podcast.
Thank you. What a pleasure to spend some time with you, David.
Well, it's so great to have you here. And I have to say, so reading through all this, the research you did and the work you did with the Hearts in the Ice project, I keep going back in my mind to the fact that you were in an uninsulated trapper's hut for 2 winters on this island. I'm just wondering what that experience was like. Just how did you survive in that?
That was a daily challenge, to be sure. Not only was it uninsulated, there were, depending on the prevailing winds, usually from the east, they would come screaming through the wooden boards. It was, we had no running water, no insulation, so we just had to make sure we had enough wood chopped up to keep the fire stoked. And that was something that started really early in the morning.
Yeah, so I guess cast iron stove, and I mean, you're just layered up, I guess, is the survival.
We're layered up. It took a few hours for the cabin to get warm enough to where we could actually sit outside of our down comforters and do some work. But, you know, we adapt. We are an amazing adaptable species, aren't we, us humans? And we just find a way to put on more layers and just deal with it. Yeah,
no, exactly. So I'd just like to go bigger picture a bit. So can we talk a bit about Svalbard and, you know, where is it, and paint a picture of what the view out your door was and where you were working?
Absolutely. So we were, as you mentioned earlier, in an uninsulated trapper's cabin, 140 kilometers south of the main settlement of Longyearbyen. There are 2,600 people that live in Longyearbyen. And to get to us, there are 2 ways. One is by ship, which would be an overnight sail, take about 10 hours, or with a snowmobile, which would take anywhere from about, depending on the conditions, and you're going over 3 glaciers, 5 to 8 hours, and a pretty hairy snowmobile ride at that. So we were very remote, and we were on the inside of what you call the Van Kulen Fjord, which was in South Spitsbergen National Park.
Yeah. And so when you wake up in the morning and you're walking out when you have sunshine, I guess, I mean, what are you seeing out that door?
Yeah, it's we have 4 tiny little windows, one to the north, one to the south, one to the east, and one to the west, oddly enough. And if you're looking out to the east, we can see the fjord and the mountain ranges. And if we're looking out to the west, we just see barren tundra and a little mountain range. And then to the south, we're just looking at another mountain range and the edge of the Van Kulen Fjord. And then to the north, which is where my bed was, that was probably the most spectacular view out into the fjord, but also this majestic mountain range. It was in an absolutely spectacular area. We had changing light, changing ice, and such a wide array of wildlife daily.
Wow. Can you talk a bit about the wildlife? I guess that's polar bear country up there, is that?
Yes, it's polar bear country up there. That's it's not like we put on some clothes and just go out for a little stroll. We layer up really well and go outside with a safety belt that had a revolver and a flare gun, and then we have a rifle over our shoulder because we had, in the 19 months we were there, we had over 100 polar bear encounters, and we had, especially in the polar night, which lasts for over 3 months, 3.5 months. That was a very interesting thing, to be so remote, knowing that there are polar bears outside, but you just can't see them. And we had, of course, really strong headlamps and could see the footprints.
Yeah.
So we had to be really, really careful. But we had foxes, we had ptarmigans, we had reindeer. At one time, we had about 28 reindeer that were just hanging out not too far from the cabin. And it just felt like such a privilege to be in one place, stationary. Most of my expeditions have been about moving from point A to point B. But to actually step back in time and have an experience where you're an observer, not just through the data we're collecting, but through the wildlife observations, and seeing, wildlife come back, like teeming with life. This particular location is a very visited stop for expedition cruise ships. And the fact that COVID hit and there was no cruise traffic, we were able to spend an entire summer, just the two of us, at this location. It was otherworldly.
Amazing. So in terms of just trying to locate the island, in terms of the Canadian North, what sort of parallels? Are we up by Ellesmere, or what's the comparison?
Would be north of Ellesmere. Wow. So we were at 78 degrees north, that far up. And of course, we know that the Arctic is warming, now they say 4 times, but 3 to 4 times faster than anywhere else in the world. And so part of why we started Hearts in the Ice, and you mentioned this earlier, David, is I've spent a lot of time in the polar regions, and Hilde has spent 27 years living in Svalbard. And when we met, it was at an adventure travel trade show, and we discovered that we both have been fortunate to have, our library be the our outdoors. And we really wanted to do something about the very fact that climate change is impacting our entire world. So we quit our jobs and started Hearts in the Ice, basically to serve as citizen scientists for the projects, some of them that you mentioned, and also to connect with kids around the world. So,
I guess first, as you mentioned, the pandemic hit when you guys were up there. I'm just wondering how much of a pivot was that? You wound up spending a whole extra winter up there. How challenging was that pivot?
Wow, that's a really great question. I remember the day when we learned the word pandemic. And we're on satellite internet up there, so we're not online per se. We had no TV, no news, but our social media contact up in Svalbard was sending little updates, and we were just so sad. We were grief-stricken, no joke. Just understanding that the whole world had just come to a full stop. Of course, that was in March, and we couldn't get a pickup to come in May to collect us with our dog Etra, our 4-year-old Malamute, our solar panels and our windmill, and we had lots of barrels of gear and snowmobiles. And so we rode into town in May of 2020 and collected more supplies, went out for the summer, and throughout the summer we were asking ourselves, what do we do? Like everybody else, we couldn't really move around anywhere, and where would I go? Would I come back to Canada? And then what would we do? So we decided that our voice and our stories and our data collection, we were far more valuable going back to Bumsaboo. So it wasn't an easy decision, simply because it meant leaving, family and friends and everything. But on the other hand, it was a very natural decision for the two of us. So we went back, and as you said, we spent a full another winter there. So 9 months turned into 19.
Wow. Kind of a gift in a way, really.
Oh, we were living days in complete perfect stillness, which is a luxury for unfettered thought, so to speak. To sit in a space where I love to write, and we finished our book, Hearts in the Ice, that came out not that long ago. And it was just really interesting to be in a space where you weren't fed information. It actually came from the deep well that we possess inside when we're either out in in the wild somewhere, or we're in just a place of quiet. So that was a real gift.
Amazing. I mean, I love your descriptions of the wildlife and also the diversity of wildlife, which I think might surprise people that far north. I'm just curious about, to get into now more of your research and how climate is impacting not just the wildlife, but the landscape and everything you saw around you in those 19 months.
We were collecting data we were collecting phytoplankton, something you can't really see. And phytoplankton, unbeknownst to me about 5 years ago, is responsible for something like 70% of the oxygen in the atmosphere, more than a rainforest. Wow. So, and what happens with phytoplankton is they thrive in very dense salt water. So when the glaciers melt, they pour fresh water into the salt water, and the phytoplankton don't bloom as much. So we were collecting phytoplankton for the Scripps Institute of Oceanography for a citizen science project called Fjord Phyto, which is typically done on expedition cruise ships. And Allison from Scripps is particularly interested in phytoplankton in the polar night. And believe it or not, she's still processing the data because of COVID. It's been difficult to get in the lab. We were also collecting, we were doing pre-programmed drone flights for the British Columbia Institute of Technology, and it was infrared imagery to record changes in surface temperature over time and density. That was very interesting. We were recording cloud observations for NASA, aurora observations for NASA. We observed a rocket launch for NASA, so they called us rocket citizen scientists.
That's a
kind
fun
of a
one.
cool title. And then we were doing polar bear observation for the Norwegian Polar Institute, and had over 100 of those, and recording the wildlife, sort of the health of the species we were looking at. And when we saw, dead reindeer, we came across 5 dead reindeer. It was like a little slaughter area, and they were all killed by a polar bear.
Wow.
And we could see the tracks up. They would chase them. Polar bear would run up the hill and chase the reindeer down to where they were injured, and they were looking for food.
That's fascinating.
And then we were collecting plastic and marine debris, which has been washed up on the west coast of Spitsbergen from mostly the maritime industry. And then taking ice core samples for the University Center of Svalbard. And they were interested in the little meiofauna that exist in the last 1 to 3 centimeters of the ice core, where they get their first stadium of life, so to speak.
Wow.
So it was very deep learning curve for us, just making sure we followed all the protocol, and then we created story around what we were collecting and why it matters. And all of these projects are related.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you guys are obviously very busy when you're up there. I mean, out of those projects, were there things that really struck you in terms of the climate, like oh no kind of moments?
Yeah, when you ask me that, I think of how quickly the ice can move in and out. We were looking out at a full fjord of ice it was on my birthday, actually. It was March 17th. And the University Center of Svalbard came with their snowmobiles and a couple of field researchers to give us this unit that they drilled a hole in the ice, and they dropped this little light sensor underneath the ice, and they wanted us to collect it before the ice broke up. And I remember it was in the kitchen doing dishes or cooking dinner. Or I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm looking out the window to the east. And all of a sudden you see the ice start to break up, and then there's a lead, and then there's another bigger lead. And we were like, you know what? Oh my, we have to get out there. So we put the skis on. It wasn't safe to go with the snowmobile. And we took a sled and we went out and rescued this little device, because within a day, the ice completely went from a full fjord of ice to an open fjord. And it's the swell, it's the wind, and it was the perfect storm just to move everything out. And, that can seem like a beautiful thing to witness, and it was. Mm-hmm. We took time lapse of this. But, everything is impacted by the ice. The ice is like this great refrigerator and cooling system for the rest of the planet. It reflects everything. And so with the open fjord, which they're seeing more of, we're losing that natural cooling system for the rest of the planet. The seals breed on ice. The polar bears feed off the seals, which are found on ice. So it's this, it really is a very interconnected web that we're witnessing up in the Arctic. And, Wildlife is one thing, but as I've learned from having met and feeling fortunate to have talked to Sila Watt-Cloutier, the author of The Right to Be Cold, there's the human aspect to climate change. We didn't have any human neighbors close to us at Bumsaboo for 19 months, but the Arctic is a huge area, as we know, especially the Canadian Arctic. And we have the Indigenous living across the land in Canada that are greatly impacted, and they have been for decades, by changes in sea ice and safety issues around fishing and hunting, and the food supply dwindling. So it's we're trying to shine a light on a greater area of the Arctic where the people are actually living on the front lines.
Yeah, no, such a huge challenge. And we have to remember as humans, we're in the food chain, right? And as the food chain collapses, it reaches us eventually, right?
Absolutely. And we can't explain the changes that we've been experiencing without taking into account human impact, right? So we all have a role to play, but as long as we can all try to be part of the solution.
I have so many questions just about your own personal experience up there too. First of all, I've never experienced, you had three months there, 3.5 months of no sunlight, not seeing the sun. And I'm just wondering how that impacted you, or what impacts you noticed on the two of you.
Well, Hilde's had a polar night or two under her belt
that's
already.
Right. She's lived up there.
It's not for the faint of heart. There's it's almost like this, you have permission to sort of retreat into your own little form of hibernation, and what that does to me on a spiritual level is, all the unresolved, unrequited things inside you come screaming out, whether or not you like it. You get to find some really beautiful way to be at peace with yourself. Your needs are lessened. It's just a quiet space to be in. On a physical level, it was really difficult because despite the fact that I took vitamin D drops, probably double the dose that I was supposed to take, it still didn't work. You just feel like there's cloud hanging over your forehead and over the top of your eyes. And I just felt like I never fully woke up, that I was in this sort of heavy state. Which impacts you physically. So we made sure to keep a routine. We trained 6 days a week. We did yoga 6 days a week, and we walked several times a day. In the polar night, not that far, just because of polar bear danger. But we were really good about keeping a routine, and I think that's what saved me. And then I came to enjoy a second, long polar night that following winter, and it was just a very special experience. It's mostly impacted by the fact that when it's dark, it's really dark, but you go outside all the time to check and see if the northern lights are out there. Beautiful. And if the northern lights are out there, we are getting dressed like firemen, and we are putting all of our gear on and dressing like Nanak of the North, and then getting our camera equipment. We make sure we always have the extra batteries charged, and they're in our pockets so they stay warm. And we're outside for hours taking pictures of the northern lights, if they last for hours. And it's just,
stunning.
It's just really hard to describe that.
Amazing. Wow. What a treat.
Yeah.
And that first sunrise, it would have been in what, March, I guess?
That was in March, on March 9th, the first year. And
what was that like?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's very interesting waiting for the sunrise. You know that it's going to come, and you can see hints of the light, but when it finally appears behind the mountain range, and it casts that glow and this warmth, even though it's minus 20, and it casts that warmth on you, you just feel like you've been showered with the best natural gift that Mother Nature could give you. It was so amazing. I will never forget that.
Wow. No, that sounds incredible.
It was beautiful.
I do want to go back to the polar bears too. So 100 sightings. What was the closest one? Or was there a scary moment ever?
The closest one was about a meter away from me,
That's
actually.
Very close.
I was.
That's very, very close.
That's a little bit too close. I was closing. We have these really thick wooden shutters on the outside of those 4 windows, and they have nail spikes on the outside to prevent the polar bear from coming in. And we would close them every night. And so I closed, I was going outside to close those shutters, and for some reason I just instinctively thought I should just turn the floodlights on both the north and south end of the cabin. And I did that, turned the lights on. So I was about to go outside, went back in, turned the lights on, and then I went back outside. And because I turned the lights on, I scared a polar bear who was right to the right side of me.
Wow.
And he came screaming around the front, stopped right in front of the door. And it was just a split second, but it felt like a full long minute where I stared into the polar bear's eyes and then just pushed off on its hind legs and then took off.
Wow.
But it was a moment of both awe and a little bit of fear.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen one up, I mean, other than in a zoo, which doesn't seem right. I've never seen one up close, and it must be just incredible, I can imagine.
They are amazing marine mammals, and they are the iconic image, of course, of the Arctic. But there's so much more in the Arctic than just the wildlife. It's just not one thing. It's many things to many people. Yeah.
No, beautiful. So there's a Canadian Arctic project coming up this fall. Is that right? Can you tell us a bit about that?
That's right.
Is it top secret still, or can we hear details?
No, it's not top secret. It's a challenging project, actually. We've been back not even quite a year from the Arctic of Svalbard, and we have spoken at COP26, and we've spoken at a lot of the Arctic Circle Assembly in Iceland, and we've been listening a lot as well. And in our listening, we have learned more and more about the indigenous people who are the least responsible for changes in our climate, and how underrepresented they are at the decision-making table. So, we really do understand that we need indigenous knowledge to make sure the science and the local data feeds the research. So what we are doing at the end of July, we're going up to Cambridge Bay for 2 weeks. We'll be introduced to the elders and the local community. And our goal is to actually not do the citizen, they're the real citizen scientists, are the Inuit, right? They've been living with the land, observing. So our goal is to actually have them collect the data, and we will train them on the data collection process, all the protocol, and the understanding around why that data is important. And we hope to continue with our educational school outreach twice a month. So after the end of July, we're going to go back up there the following year for 7 months, and we'll be stationary there as support systems. And we're wanting to just basically report out the stories of the people living on the land, and the small group that we'll have that will serve as the community scientists, and we'll share the stories of the local people with school kids around the Arctic.
Yeah, and that you'll be in Cambridge Bay then as well.
That's the plan, yeah.
Amazing.
But we are going to go, as they say, at the speed of empathy and the speed of trust.
Yeah, lovely. You do a lot of outreach with schools and stuff, and people can follow you how if they want to take part in this?
Yeah, great. We have all our social feeds. Everything is Hearts in the Ice on our website. If you go there and sign up for our newsletter, we tend to share things through a monthly newsletter. And then we have a schedule on our website as well, just on where we are, where we're speaking, and what sorts of school calls we're hosting. So we really want to encourage people to get involved. We're just two women, have spent our lives so enriched by immersion in the natural world, and we want to encourage not just all Canadians, but people around the world to get out and, connect with your backyard or your local parks, and understand that we all need to be stewards and protectors of the planet today. It's, we're living in a very changed time. So if we can inspire people, that's part of our job. That's why Hearts on the Ice exists.
Fantastic. And I just have two more questions that I ask our guests, especially of our explorers too. Is there a piece of gear or a good luck something or something that you bring with you on all your expeditions, something you rely on, or feel like you feel better when you have it with you?
I think it might be, and I'm staring at it right now, I have a special knife that I always travel with. It's a handmade knife, and it's got a nice leather pouch, and it's always on my safety belt. And you never know when you're going to need a good knife.
Exactly. How long have you been carrying that around?
Many years now. I don't know how long, but it's been a while. That's one piece. I also love a good headlamp.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to be said for a good headlamp. Yeah, you don't want the headlamp going out at the wrong moment.
No.
And can you describe for us a favorite place you have in Canada? Might be a happy place you go to and a mind place you just like to go to relax, or, favorite spot in Canada?
Yeah, that's a lovely question. I just love our country. I have I just feel like British Columbia is very, very special. There's a lot of sacred land here, and I find a rainforest to be a most special place where nice to just wander in or just sit and listen. But I love the rainforest in BC.
There's a richness to the smell of it, the earthiness of it. Yeah, no, I hear that.
It's so alive. You just have to inhale there and understand that, wow, we can't cut these down. What are we thinking?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I talk about planting trees. We just need to keep the trees we have, I think, is the...
That's right. That's it, David.
Step one. Great. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. Oh, and so you have a book, Hearts in the Ice Out. Where can people get that?
You can get it on our website, and that'll just take you actually straight to Amazon, and you can purchase it off Amazon. It was just easier to have it hosted there so that we didn't have to do the shipping. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I look forward to reading the book, and I look forward to hearing about the next project when that's wrapping up too. So hope you'll come back.
Thanks. I'd love to.
And thank you for listening. If you like this episode or this podcast, please give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. We're all slaves to the algorithm in this podcasting universe, and the more good things are said about us, the more opportunities we get to reach a bigger audience. And remember also to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Until next time, when we'll explore again, I'm David McGuffin.
I think right now we're enjoying very much looking back at the Earth, and it's just a fantastic experience, and I just can't wait to get back and start telling people.
We left Simpson about June 10th with the fur brigade, consisting of a number of yacht boats, each manned by 10 voyageurs.
For us Inuit, it means that Inuit oral history is very strong.
We flew low over every inch of the country that could be. We were hoping that he would fire at us.
I guess 160 yards or so.